Hello, my friends. So Amber had her ninth members only live, and man, these smug levels were off the charts. She was so condescending. I think she's getting some support, but I think she's not getting as much as she would like. And if I had to give a theme or a title for the beginning of the live stream, it would be Zachary Michael sucks. I hate Zachary Michael because she goes on and on about what a coincidence that when she takes a break, they take a break. And just, somebody brings up the DMs that she sent to them, and which that is harassment, right? When they have said specifically, I don't want to be contacted by you, and you do it anyway, that is harassment. Making a video about you is not harassment. So, yeah, she was getting pretty upset when people would defend Zachary Michael. And I think what happened is she sees all the support and love that Zachary Michael gets whenever they say they need to take time for their mental health or take a break or go through a breakup or whatever. There's an outpouring of love, an overwhelmingly positive response to Zachary Michael. And she doesn't get that, right? She gets trolls and people telling her she's lazy and stuff like that. And rightfully so. And I think she's jealous. I think she wishes she had the community and the audience that Zachary Michael has. And so when something like this happens, she gets all pissy about it. And so when her chat would defend Zachary Michael, she would just be like, you are in the wrong place if you're here to talk about how great Zachary Michael is. And she was really leaning hard into the I'm rubber, you're glue, because then she went on to talk about how there must be some skeletons in Zachary Michael's closet. Ooh. And I think what she's doing there is, see, in her mind, she knows that a lot of times whenever you hint that there might be some secrets, the internet sleuths will go find it, right? But generally they only do that when you either do have skeletons in your closet or you're just a terrible person and they just want to try to expose whatever you might have. And so I don't think it's going to work the way Amber thinks it does. I think she's thinking she's going to sick those, internet sleuths and internet detectives on Zachary Michael to find whatever kind of skeletons they might have in their closet. I mean, maybe they do have skeletons. Who knows? I don't know, and I don't really care. But, she's trying to make them seem the same, right? She's trying to put Zachary Michael on her level. We're both public figures. We both, do whatever. But what she doesn't understand is she is a public figure and is known for being a terrible person and just being awful. Zachary Michael is known for calling out bad behavior and making fun of you for being awful. So you don't have the same audience and you don't have the same appeal to the internet. So yeah, you're going to get made fun of when you leave for mental health breaks, and they generally are not, except by the babies, which again, there's more of those than there should be, but thankfully not too many. Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of sum up the Zachary Michael part because the first, 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes of the live stream was just her ranting and raving about Zachary Michael and just going in on anybody in the chat who dared defend them. The rest of the stream was pretty uneventful, but honestly, there were several things that she said that were worth talking about. And of course, this is a members only live, so I will have some audio clips, but I'll be narrating some too. We'll kind of go back and forth. But yeah, if you'd like to like and subscribe, that would literally be hectic. I'm not going to lie. So at one point, somebody asked, what did you do today? And she says, I took some notes, I filmed the video and edited and got it scheduled. So my day was very work oriented. And for most people that make videos on YouTube, I would say that could take up most of your day, because some videos do take a while to make, especially when you're editing and stuff like that. But for her style of video and the amount of editing she does, I would guess that probably took up an hour or two of her day. And that's probably all she did, So she's not lying that that's all she did, but I just don't think that took her whole day. So at some point, somebody asks, would you do a Torrid sponsorship?
If Torrid asked to sponsor you, would you do it? I feel like that's probably one of the only sponsors I would take.
And she says, it's probably the only sponsorship that I would actually take. Like, she has options, right? Like anybody would ever sponsor Amberlynn Reid. She implies that she would turn down other sponsorships and take a sponsorship with Torrid. But of course, we know there is not a company on earth that would come anywhere near Amberlynn Reid with a sponsorship. A lot of the stream is Amberlynn doing oracle cards and like reading oracles for people in her stream. And the first one, I mean, it's just, the whole thing is so stupid and silly. And she starts shuffling as best she can because they're big giant cards and she's got little stubby fingers. And she's shuffling them and she just is looking at the chat and she says, oh, a card's speaking to me, or there's a card that's like calling out for me or something. And she just kind of, without looking, she just kind of grabs a card, which I could do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, she just grabbed a random card. So, and it was for a person in the chat named Window. And she says, okay, Window, this card is castle. It means you're at war with somebody. And then she reads the like guidebook for it. And Window goes, I'm not sure what it's talking about. I haven't started any wars. Window says, not me starting wars. I'm just a girl. So I don't know. I mean, it's so vague, right? Anybody could be going through anything like that. You could kind of apply that to anybody, but she does a lot of oracle readings in this. And it is just about as stupid as you would think. And so when Window said, yeah, I'm not sure what that means, basically, that's not me, then Amberlynn says this.
All right, well, there's something you're going through. You know, sometimes you have to dig a little deeper. Sometimes it's not like black and white, you know?
So she basically is like, yeah, I'm sure there's something. You know, it's got to apply to you somehow. The universe would not have given me this card if you weren't going through something, Window. Stop making me look bad.
Morgan, you don't have to care about it, honey. Not everything I do is going to be strictly just for you. Like, don't be selfish, okay?
So one thing I've noticed about Amberlynn's live streams is it's really just a Q&A. She doesn't have anything planned. She doesn't have anything really to talk about. So her entire members only live is just sitting there reading the chat and answering the questions that she wants to answer. I mean, it is a Q&A. That's all it is. That's all they've all been. You know, other than the last one, I think she just got so drunk and so in her feelings, you know, that she ranted about stuff. But pretty much the entire live stream for all of them has just been a Q&A. But even with this, where she makes a ton of money on these members only live, she doesn't have to do any actual work. I mean, think about it. She sits, reads some chats, answers a handful of questions, and just drinks the whole time. And usually eats too. That's her job. That's so messed up, man. That is so weird. And then she complains that she has to work so hard. Shut up. And then she puts some people in timeout, and there were a few trolls, but I was looking through the chat and I didn't see anything like overly gross or mean. I mean, it was just kind of the usual stuff. So yeah, she's pretty emboldened right now, I think, by getting some support. I think she is coming on and being like, you know what? I'm not taking this shit from anybody anymore.
Hold on. I think I'm going to put a few people on timeout because I just can't right now. I just can't do it.
So then she has this really weird story about a spider outside her apartment that shows a few things. Just how weird she is, but also it shows how much time she has to do nothing, because she talks about getting to know this spider and the spider's routine and knowing when the spider is going to be in what spot. And just, it was so weird, man.
When I was in Wisconsin, there was a cute little spider in the shower and I just kept it there. It was my little friend. It's so weird. I used to genuinely be like terrified of spiders.
Real quick, look at that picture. You can see the missing back teeth from that angle. I just noticed that while editing.
But there was a spider that I fell in love with that was right outside of my apartment. And it was there for like 2 months, and I knew it. I literally knew its whole routine. I knew when it would be gone to eat. I knew when it would create its new spider web. I knew everything about it. I literally named it, and I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed with that little booger. I'm not gonna lie. I named him TJ. If anyone cares. I remember the day I walked outside and he wasn't there, which he normally would have been there during that specific time, and he was gone forever. I cried. Like this happened literally last summer. Like
And then, of course, everybody has to talk about the spiders and how weird that is. And just, you know, a lot of the Am babies are just like, oh my gosh, I hate spiders. I can't believe you could do that. You're so brave. That kind of stupid stuff. But then Amber starts talking about things that gross her out. And it's just so over the top and stupid. And she's pretending to gag about maggots and just, it was real dumb. And I'm not going to show it, but just, yeah, maybe I will.
Maggots or things that are like that move like the. Nope.
And then somebody mentions the bed bugs that she had kind of in between Destiny and Beck. And she's like, yeah, man, I had bed bugs for a month and I'm glad I got rid of them, but it was my neighbor. But then when we heard Destiny and Beck talk about Amberlynn and just the state of her apartment and just the way she lived.
There was like when we would go over there on Sundays to do those things with her, like it would just be trashed. Like all the takeout stuff would be everywhere. You know, she wasn't walking Twinkie, so Twinkie's stuff was everywhere. The cats, everything would need to be done for the cats. She was just letting it go to crap unless she thought you were coming over or what have you.
It was disgusting. So, I mean, she could blame her neighbor all she wants, but I'm not so sure. And at some point, somebody asks, did you love Beck? And she says, yeah, I did love Beck. But they didn't love me, though. And just giggles and thinks that's so funny. And then she says, oh, that's so crazy. And Beck didn't say that they never loved Amber. In fact, they said that when they were together at the beginning, they did love her, right? That they were in love at one point. And it just took them a while to realize it wasn't really love. It was a caretaker relationship. Again, Amber is Darvoing all over the place right now. She's trying to make Beck look so bad because she can't take accountability and she doesn't have any good explanations for why she did anything that she did. So her only other option is to try to make Beck look bad rather than just take the accountability, take the L and just say, I fucked up. I did the wrong thing. I'm sorry. And then stop talking. She can't do that. So she has to make Beck look like the bad guy. So that's what she was doing there, is trying to say, Beck never loved me. Like, I mean, yeah, they did at one point. This next clip, I don't really know what to say about it, so I'm just going to show you.
That is dangerous. This is water? Wait. This is water? What the fuck? Spiked sparkling water? Wait, what? I am fucking dainty. I did not know that this was water.
And the funny thing is, it's called hard seltzer. So she clearly just doesn't know what seltzer is, right? That's what seltzer is. It's sparkling water. So, and of course, when she said, I'm so dainty, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I subjected you to that. So she actually talks about Jade in this for a little bit. And of course, in my last video, I covered the Q&A that she had a couple years ago where she actually claims that she broke Jade's heart by falling in love with somebody else, which I think we can all agree is grade A bullshit. But in this, she sort of lets something slip that I think has more implications than she thinks. So just listen, just listen to this and then we'll talk.
But then we started hooking up while we weren't together. And then she wanted to get back with me. We were going to try poly. And then eventually she was like, I don't want to do poly because I just want you. But then I was talking to this other girl and I thought I was in love with her.
So think about that. She said Jade wanted to get back together and we were going to try poly. Now, to me, that doesn't really make sense. It sounds like what happened was Amber wanted to get back together and Jade was like, I mean, I guess if we're going to get back together, it's going to have to be more of an open relationship. I don't want to just be with you, right? But Amber says we were going to get back together and then we were going to try poly. That doesn't really make sense. That Jade wanted to get back together and we were going to try poly. because Amber has said all along she is not into poly. So that makes no sense. And then she says, and then Jade decided, because of course Amberlynn's a narcissist and she can't handle sharing the spotlight or anything. So she has to make sure you know that eventually Jade changed her mind and she wanted just me. And so she said, and then Feline changed her mind and she just wanted me. But then I fell in love with another girl and I broke her heart. You know, that is her twisting this thing so hard. I mean, it's just so dumb that she thinks anybody believes this. And I also just wanted to point out that at one point, Amberlynn says hecticana, and Dor in the chat says, we stand hecticana. And I'm going to assume that they mean me, and I'm going to say, I see you, Dor, and thank you. I felt seen in that moment. And then at one point, she says to the chat, everybody type your age. Now, you know, we tend to think that her audience skews pretty young, and I think that's true, but a lot of the chat, in fact, most of the chat were like 23 to 30-ish. That was sort of the vast majority of the people that typed their ages in the chat. Of course, they could type anything. And I don't really know why I'm even telling you this, other than I just thought it was interesting that if these people aren't trolls and if they're being honest about their age, I just don't know what excuse they have. Because here's the thing. Whoever they are, they're paying for Amberlynn content. So that's just not great already to start off with. So I don't know. I just think it's a little weird. You know, at least if they were 14 or 15 or 16, they could have an excuse. But 25, like if you're 25 and you're enjoying Amberlynn content, I'm sorry, but I don't think we would get along. So at some point, somebody mentions Choosy, and Amber makes a joke out of it. And she says, do you guys want to play Choosy? And she starts pulling out all of her Oracle cards and just is pretty insensitive about it. So honestly, just listen.
You guys want to play Choosy? We can play Choosy with my... Wait, hold on. Is this torture? Am I about to torture you guys with my Choosy? Okay. All right, you guys, we have to do this for days. We can't leave.
And then there was this one moment. It was a fleeting moment, but I just thought it was interesting because she's pretty drunk at this point, and she's really not making a lot of sense and just saying a lot of stupid shit. But she takes a moment to look at herself in the viewfinder, and she likes what she sees.
I feel bad for him.
There was also an interesting moment where Amber knows that somebody is stream sniping her. In other words, they are a member and they are live streaming it to other people who are not members so they can watch without being members, right? And she goes into the guy's chat and just says hi, and he ends the live, and she laughs and just jokes and basically just says it's fine that he's restreaming it. She says he only gets 3 viewers, so just pop off. So, I mean, it sounds like she's kind of giving permission to, you know, restream it or stream snipe. And I think she means because it's only 3 people, so she doesn't really care. But I don't think it really matters how many people. If you say it's okay to live stream or, you know, stream snipe, then it's okay to stream snipe.
So there's this person who watches my thing, and I was trying to tell him it's okay. It's because there's this one person who like stream snipes me, and I think he has like anxieties about it. I don't know. And it's he literally gets like 3 viewers. So I was like, pop off. I don't know. And he just ended the live because I went into his chat and I said hi. I feel bad for him.
And then she asks the chat, should I get a snack? Type 1 in the comments if I should get a snack. And of course, everybody says yes. And so she goes and gets a plate of like carrots and dip, some little ham roll-up thing, maybe prosciutto or something, and these little popcorn-looking bites. I don't know. But anyway, so it's just snack food, right? She's just snacking the rest of the live, or for the most part. She kind of eats off and on after that because, of course, she cannot go. And at this point, it's only an hour and a half into live. So she can't go an hour and a half without eating. So at one point, she says, it's really hot in here. And somebody says, what, you can't afford AC? And Amberlynn kind of laughs and she says, oh my gosh, I was going to say, oh, I just can't. I can't. I was going to be snarky, but I'm not going to say it. I'm not that person. And everybody in the chat was like, do it, you can do it, don't be silenced, you know, don't let them get the best of you, give it to them, you know, that kind of stupid stuff. And she's eating it up, right? She's like, oh, you guys, I'm not that person. I can't. Well, no, I can't. I'm not that person. I'm just not mean like that. And then she kind of gives up on it for a second. And then, of course, because she is that person, she goes, okay, fine. And she says, I could afford AC for everyone in this chat. I'm just going to leave that with you. I'm going to let you soak that up for a little bit and just kind of let that stew in your brain for a minute. The whole situation, right? The fact that she said she was such a nice person, she couldn't say anything. The fact that she was claiming to be better than that. And then the fact that she just said, I could afford the AC for everybody in this chat. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. Probably. All of that sucks. That whole thing, right? I don't like any of that. So you're welcome. And then towards the end, we're like kind of starting to wrap up. And she goes, sly, smug look on her face. She goes, you know what? It's really weird. I was expecting to have to talk about something in this chat, but it was never brought up. So I don't know. And you know, some people were trying to speculate, and that's what she wanted, right? She wanted for the drama to get kicked off, where she could complain about, I'm sure, Beck and Destiny and, you know, just all the stuff that's going on. But nobody really fell for it. I mean, like I said, there were a few people that were talking about it, but it really kind of just passed everybody by. So I don't think it worked the way she wanted it to. It was kind of funny to see her kind of fish for that, and then it just kind of went nowhere.
Oh, you know what? I'm surprised something hasn't been brought up. I was expecting to have to talk about something in this chat today, and it was never brought up.
And then towards the end, somebody asks about Rarity, and Amberlynn, of course, gives a big show about how much she misses Rarity and all that. And then she talks about how Wasabi actually seems to have sort of come out of his shell, so to speak, since Rarity's been gone, you know? And she started it by saying that Wasabi seemed really sad and missed Rarity and everything, but he's been really kind of more talkative and more cuddling and generally happier seeming. Like he just enjoys being an only cat. So I thought that was kind of weird that, you know, Wasabi, I wonder if Wasabi was like, hey, Rarity, that door's over there. I want to do some hard exploring. And of course, after she talks about Rarity, she gets a ton of sympathy from the chat. Everybody just telling her how great she is and don't be so sad, you know, don't blame yourself, things like that. Real stupid. And of course, she's just eating that up. And then she says, I don't think Tommy has given up. I don't think she will. I think she loved Rarity too, and I think she is going to keep looking. Like, I don't think so. I think Tommy gave up the minute Amberlynn left. Actually, probably before that. And then, of course, she mentions DBT, but she says, thankfully, with DBT, I'm going to learn to regulate my emotions. And also, I'm going to go to the psychiatrist and get put on medication. So I'm excited for that. I just thought that was weird. That's a weird thing to say. Like, I'm so excited to get put on medication, you know? And the DBT thing, she still treats it like it's going to be going to summer camp. You know? I'm excited to do DBT therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, because then I'll learn to regulate my emotions. And again, she thinks it's a magic pill. She's going to show up, they're going to wave a magic wand, and she's going to go, look, I can regulate everything. Woo! Of course, I don't think any of this is actually going to happen anyway, but she talks about DBT completely incorrectly, you know? So overall, it was not a terribly exciting stream, but there were a few things in there that I think were worth talking about because she was overly smug in this one. It was pretty gross and cringeworthy because she, for some reason, has decided she can just take on the world. And I do think it's because she is getting probably more support than usual right now. For whatever reason, there are enough babies out there that are kind of keeping her going. But at the very end, she was talking about Rarity and she was just crying and crying and crying, and then just stopped and just kind of started talking like normal. And somebody brought up, like, you quit crying pretty easily and just kind of turned on a dime. And she was like, yeah, that's my BPD. You know, my BPD. I cry like crazy and then I stop. So I don't know, maybe, but I think a lot of everything she does really is for show. You know, she just likes the attention. Because when she talked about Rarity and started crying, she got an outpouring of attention and sympathy and just well wishes, you know, from the chat. And that's exactly what I think she was looking for. And she got it. So she knows if she cries, she gets attention. So, but there are always moments of narcissism and, you know, general Amberlynn Reid behavior. And this was no exception. So I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.